Hey guys, long time no talk. It's so bright out here. How's it going? Okay, so I'm in the beautiful Salt Flats. Here, let me give you a better look. Look at this. This is one of my favorite places ever. And today we're going to do a little travel Q&A. I polled my Instagram and this is going to be, okay, rewind. Welcome to my multi-part travel series where I am having a Q&A on travel questions that you guys asked and want to know the answer to. So this is part one. I took all your questions. Well, I split them into two categories, van life questions and international/travel questions. So this Q&A is on the travel section side. And then I made a bunch of little pieces of paper and I'm going to put them in a hat and I'm going to draw numbers because we're going to make this fun. Okay, get right to it. First question. Chungus, would you like to say anything? Anything else? Okay, that's it. That's the Q&A. Here we have it. All right, first question is question number 63. Is what made you want to do traveling? That's a good question. For a little context, I grew up in Nebraska. I lived my life 26 years there, and most of it was in this little bubble. It was a bubble that anything outside of there was scary and intimidating. Travel outside of the United States itself, other than like a resort in Mexico, that was kind of engraved in my brain. It was like you go to these places in the tropics, you don't leave the resort, everything else is so scary. So I never really questioned it. And then my ex brought up the idea of traveling abroad for a year, and I was like, you mean we can what? We can go travel around the entire globe with a backpack. And it didn't seem as intimidating at the time because I would have been traveling with him. A 6-foot man who had a broader worldview. He had more of the want to go travel. I was just kind of vibing, in Nebraska, and I wasn't really questioning anything. And then he brought up the van. So the van was his idea. Let me rewind. We were supposed to do the year of travel during 2020 and then 2020 hit. So we did not end up doing a year of travel and we switched to van life, which he had actually brought up to me years prior. And I said no. So if that gives you any context of my brain has not always been like this, I said no to traveling in a van to him years ago. Well, then eventually I said yes, and here I am in the van. But he really kind of opened my eyes to the possibility of travel and that travel, A, can be feasible. It's not that scary and there's a lot of cool stuff to see. So then when we started traveling in the van and I even just started seeing how people live in other states and living somewhere other than Nebraska, that really opened. Sorry if I'm not looking at the camera. It's extremely bright out. That really opened my eyes a lot. And then we started traveling to some other countries together. Like we started going to Belize and then to Peru and then Japan. And then going to each of those places a little bit more and more, I started to get more of a curiosity. And I was like, well, I want to see how they're living over there. Like, what are you guys doing in that country? Or how were you raised? What makes your culture different? It's all of a sudden, it was like poof, this big appreciation and this desire to find all the other ways that people live and to go see it with my own eyes. And I feel like it started to really shape me a lot differently as a person. And I kind of just fell in love with it. Yeah, hopefully that answers that question. We'll see when I edit this right now. But in this travel Q&A, you didn't expect to get a full show and tell of how I set up Chungy's castle. But here we are. Hold on. Can you please practice some patience? Oh, okay. What else? Oh. Okay, so hopefully this entertains her. All right, next question. I'm not looking. Number 5. How to feel safe when traveling as a solo female. This was a very popular question. Okay, biggest thing is awareness. No matter where you're at, understanding your surroundings. There were other questions in relation to this that were like, do you bring anything specific to stay safe? Like with pepper spray or other stuff. Well, you can't fly with that stuff, at least in a carry-on. I don't actually know if you can check it. So I don't have pepper spray on me. I can't even travel with a knife. So going back to the awareness, there are definitely a few things that I just kind of like, I have like a little checklist. I like to look up the safety for females. So I just do a quick Google search. I'm like, is this a safe place? Just in general, it doesn't always mean that it's not going to be unsafe for you, but it's just nice to have that like knowing in the back of your mind. Places in Southeast Asia that I've traveled to are generally quite safe. They're very backpacker friendly. I have not had Okay, I'm gonna rewind. I've had a couple uncomfortable situations being in taxis by myself, but that was just more so the questions that they were asking. I guess tying into that, another way I stay safe is I lie all the time. Not to people that I like are my friends or that I meet at hostels, but people that are random. You don't ever want to tell like a taxi driver or someone else that you're traveling by yourself. They don't need to know that I'm alone. That's none of their business. Chungus is absolutely going at this mouse. I'm gonna need to show you this. Get it. Go. Okay, thank you for entertaining that minor break while we watched Chungus play with her mousey. Such a simple creature. Anyways, things that make me feel safe are being aware, surrounding myself with good people, trusting my gut. I know these seem so, like, if you Googled how to stay safe as a solo female traveler, but it's just what I use. Like, I don't use any crazy techniques. I really do trust my gut. I try and stay as aware as I can, which is not something that I used to do in years past. I used to just bop around because I was traveling with a 6-foot male. I kind of put most of that off on him, so I really didn't practice a lot of it. So that's been an adjustment. And lying, like I said earlier, people that don't know you don't need to know that you're alone. And also just kind of doing some research. I never want to use that as like a fear mongering, like, oh, don't go here because it's not safe for solo female traveler. Don't go here because this is going to happen. Like, that's not a great mindset to go in with things. But at the same time, you do want to be aware. I'm going to use that word 100 times. Aware of what does go on in some of the different places that you don't live and that you are going to travel to. I say this, and this is kind of going to be a little contradictory, but not sticking out too much. So like on travel days, as much as I as a person want to be like, I want to wear whatever I want and I don't want to have to cover up and do this and that because I can do that in my home country. That's just not quite how it works in other countries. And you probably will draw, like sometimes I have drawn more attention to myself than I wanted to. Try to blend in as much as possible, which having a lot of visible tattoos does not work in my favor for that. I do get a lot of stares and I think that attracts more attention than I would like. But if possible, if it's not like I'm like 100 degrees, I'll wear my pants, I'll wear my baggy sweatshirt if I'm in a place where I'm thinking, okay, this is maybe not going to be the most comfortable situation for me. And also just respecting some of the religions of the places that you go to and their cultures and traditions. Yeah, this is a long spiel. But also I go in with the mindset of confidence and I'm not walking those streets looking timid and afraid. I'm not on my phone scrolling, looking lost or confused. I kind of talked about that in a previous video, but if I'm in a place that I know I need to be more aware, I'm not looking at my phone and checking Google Maps as I'm walking down the street by myself. That phone is tucked away. I have looked at the map before I left, and if I forget where I'm going, I'm going to act like I know where I'm going, and I'm going to walk into a coffee shop or into a convenience store or somewhere else, and then I'm going to look at my phone, and then I'll go back onto the street. Hopefully that gives some clarity to that question. I don't have any chairs in the van, so we're using my yoga mat. All right, this one is the need to knows. Travel insurance, Esims, currency exchange, etc. Travel insurance. Travel insurance. Hey. Okay, so for travel insurance, I use Safety Wing. This video is actually in partnership with them, and I was stoked because I've used them for my travel insurance for my last 2 rounds to Asia. So shout out Safety Wing. My friend had recommended them to me when I was in Asia for the first time. I was in Thailand. He actually ended up getting injured and used the insurance, which proved to be very, very beneficial for him because he ended up having to get surgery. So I would highly suggest having travel insurance. I have never gone on an international trip without it. So a few reasons I like Safety Wing. You have a $0 deductible, meaning you can get covered for even the smallest of claims. There's no pre-approval, so I have sometimes gotten this as I was in the airport leaving for my trip, which I would suggest getting it a little bit beforehand, but it takes like a few minutes. Oh, don't fly away, Chungus. You can get coverage in over 180 countries. Okay, quick interruption on what you can actually get covered. Medical travel insurance up to $250,000. Yeah, that's right. 250,000. Or trip interruption, travel delay, lost baggage. And then you can add on an electronics theft policy for up to $3,000. And then you can also add on adventure sports packages, kind of depending on what you're doing on your trip. You know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. If you do want more information on the Safety Wing Nomad Insurance, you can click the link on the description and that will give you more information. Next thing on the need to knows was Esims. I've used Esims for nearly all of my international travel. And after using them, I gotta say, I like them better than the local Sims. They are more convenient than local Sims. Yes, they may be a little bit more expensive, so you're paying for the convenience. I have found the coverage to be monumentally better. And then I also don't have to worry about losing my SIM card, which I nearly did on one of my first international trips when I had to exchange for the local SIM. I personally like to use Airalo. This YouTube video that you're watching is not sponsored by them. I have worked with them on other platforms, and it's because I liked them and I used them, and then they reached out to partner, and then I kept partnering with them because I still like the product, and that's my favorite eSIM. So that's just what I like. But basically, yeah, it's just like getting data. So I can get the data on my phone. I can send texts. I can use my apps, and then I can use it as a hotspot when I work. It's really quite nice. I usually do, I think, 5 gigabytes per week for the plan, kind of depending where I'm at. And then you can just add on. So if I don't know if I'll use that much, I just pick a lower plan. And then if I need to get more, I get more later, and it just adds right onto the plan, which is super nice. The last part of that question was currency exchange. So what I do maybe is not always, I hate saying this, but honestly, sometimes I just kind of wing it. I will come to the country with a sum of cash. Last time, it was not that much. Other times, maybe like a couple hundred, and then I'll exchange it at a local exchange. And then from there, I'll just use ATMs from then on. But this does not work in all places, because some places you'll go to and maybe all the ATMs are out of cash, or it's not a good place to exchange money. So do a quick Google search before. Otherwise, I mean, for all of the parts of Asia that I've traveled, I just use a debit card and go to ATMs. And then I don't like to take a bunch of cash, for the potential of being lost or stolen. And then I don't like exchanging a lot of cash, because I'm like, I may leave that country and then I don't want to exchange it back. In the spirit of using ATMs, bring multiple debit cards, because you don't think so, Chungus? I've seen so many people and heard so many people getting their debit card ate by the ATM machine, which it could look like such an inviting, nice ATM machine, and then you go up and you use it, and then it eats your card. So tread with caution, on the whole ATM route, because sometimes it could bite you in the butt. So if you don't want to do that and you do just want to bring cash, or you want to exchange at your local bank before, those are also options. I always check Google to make sure I'm not getting ripped off, because sometimes some of those currency exchange places, they are way off. And sometimes they're like right on par with what Google says. So make sure you check. Just a quick Google search. What should I be getting per US dollar? It's not always going to be right on par, but just make sure you're not losing a bunch of money. Okay, Chungus, you want to go inside? Next question. Dun, 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 dun. Two isn't a bad question. I don't know what question 2 is, actually. How do you find the confidence to go alone? I think that for me personally, a lot of it has to do with my personality. I think that I have a quite determined personality, where if I want something bad enough, I'll go do it. I'll find a way to make it happen, or I'll figure something out. I think that for me, that helps translate in getting the confidence to go solo travel, because for me, the mindset was never, I don't want to do this. It was, okay, I want to go do this, and I'm not waiting for someone else to join me. So I'm just going to go do it, which I know that is also for a lot of people being just like, okay, I'm not going to wait around for other people to join me. Like, this is what I want to go do, so I'm going to go do it. Your first trip, if you're uncomfortable or if you don't have the confidence to go solo travel, but deep down you know you want to, it doesn't have to be an extremely extravagant or uncomfortable place. You could go to a little staycation 30 minutes to an hour outside of where you live, and even just staying somewhere else outside of your home, that could be a great step to build your confidence in navigating and going to restaurants by yourself. If you want to leave the country, I love suggesting Southeast Asia for backpacking, because it is so well populated. It's so backpacker friendly. And if you Google the banana pancake route, that is a route that a lot of solo travelers are doing. If you don't want to, you could be not solo traveling basically the entire time. You can find pods of people at your hostels, and they'll be on the same route as you. They could be popping from the same place. I have seen and overlapped with so many people when I've been solo traveling, and we weren't planning our routes together. It's just simply the fact that a lot of people follow similar routes and they end up in the same places, which is quite nice. So I would say that could be a great first place. And then you kind of gain that confidence. Don't put too much pressure on yourself as well. Give yourself a lot of grace. It can be uncomfortable and it can be scary, but also know that you are extremely capable of figuring stuff out. You're smart. You can go do it. And then once you kind of start feeling that confidence within yourself, you're like, okay, I navigated this by myself, or okay, I went to dinner by myself. It can be small things. It'll start to build, and then it'll grow and grow. You can kind of take it wherever you want from there. Has anyone seen the videos on TikTok of the girl that does the yoga poses and gives all that really good life advice? I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try and do a headstand while I give you some advice. We'll see how this goes. First off, what question are we gonna do? 33 weeks in the Philippines. Where would you recommend going? Oh, I love the Philippines. I just love the Philippines so much. Siargao. My little spiel with the I forgot. Okay, so in the Philippines, it's kind of difficult to travel. And you definitely want more time to get from place to place, because you could be spending a day taking like a ferry from here to there. Oh, am I gonna get the other leg up? Oh man. So don't think that it'll just take you a few hours to get from island to island. You might be spending a whole day. In addition to that, if you don't want to spend a lot of your 3 weeks with a bunch of travel days, I would spend more than 2 or 3 nights in each location. It also depends on how much you want to spend on flights, because it's easier to get to one region of the Philippines and then just take ferries or buses around depending on where you're going, versus it's going to be more expensive to fly from island to island. Granted, you can get there a little bit faster and you'll be able to see more, but that is my disclaimer. Now for the locations.
Okay, I absolutely loved Siargao. Siargao was probably one of my favorite places in the Philippines. And then I would say, now this is on the other side of the Philippines, the boat tour from Coron to El Nido or vice versa was one of the favorite things I've ever done. I would also highly suggest that. I can't think.
I spent 9 nights in Siargao maybe, and it absolutely flew by. I think I could have spent a whole month there. Siquijor, also really liked Siquijor. I liked Mobile. Those are kind of short stops that you can do along the way over on the other side. I'm gonna try this one more time. This is the only trick I have. Sorry, maybe I could try crow pose. I'll try that. If you don't want to do beaches and you want to see a different side of the Philippines, then I highly suggest going north of Manila and going to places like Sagada and Banao and Batad, and those rice terraces were probably the coolest things I've ever seen. Honestly, the Philippines are incredible. I could make a whole YouTube video on themselves alone. The people are absolutely amazing. I was intimidated to travel there first because getting from island to island or whatnot, but you get there, it makes more sense, and great place to be. Okay, last question for this video. Again, multi-part series. Draw the hat. Lucky number 55. Dating while traveling. It's an interesting thing. Honestly, yeah, you know what? We will talk about dating while traveling. This is a good thing to end it on. Okay, I wish you could come take a walk with me. But you're on a tripod, so we can't do that. So I just need to fiddle around here. So I've only been single for a little over a year now, and getting thrown into the dating world after not being in it for 11 years was a little bit of a shell shock. So then when you add traveling on top of it, and I'm not staying in the same place for more than like a week at a time, I'm kind of like, what is going on here? Honestly, I do just use apps to meet people while I'm traveling. But then when you're traveling and other people are traveling, it's pretty much like, okay, bye, hello, goodbye. It doesn't prove to be that successful, at least for me, for finding like long-term connection. But I don't know, maybe I'm doing it wrong. In some ways, I think it's great to meet new people, and you just get on an app and you're like, okay, who's in the area? If I don't know anyone, otherwise you're meeting people at a hostel. There's not really a mentality of, yeah, I'm finding someone that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. Or at least I have not been able to connect the two, because you're only in a place for so long. Now that I've actually been staying in places in the van, that car is flying longer, then it's a little bit different. But when you're traveling internationally, it's more like, to me at least, it's like, hey, I'm just trying to find people to hang out with for the week. I don't know. It's an interesting one. If anyone's got any better suggestions, let me know. But yeah, honestly, I feel like I did not give you any advice in that little spiel about dating. But I guess, I mean, the questions have said dating while traveling ? So I was rather open-ended, and I'm here to tell you that it's interesting. What do you think, my chungliest? She just licked the mic. All right, well, that was the Q&A in the salt flats of the travel Q&A. I'm going to see how far back I can walk till this mic stops working. Thanks for watching. I'll have a multi-part series on this because there's a lot of questions and I did not get through all of them. So it will be a continuous one. I wrote all the questions down. And, you know, if you got even more questions, maybe they're on the list already, maybe they're not. Fire them off in the comments. Yeah. So have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye.